All right, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome, and Merry Christmas, everyone. Sean is not going to be on tonight. He has some other obligations, but we've got Bob Rose, as always, our official now third host. And I'm, of course, your host, Alan Ulrich. Uh, what can we say? I mean, one of those games where everyone felt like, this was going to be a slaughter, that there's no way that you can hold the highest scoring offense down. We can't score, and they're still pissed about week 6.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they lost in the dome. They in front of the national audience, they win their first division title since 2007. Um, Everything was going for the Bucs, and we just kicked their ass. There's no other way of getting around it. We kicked their ass. I mean, in every phase of the game defensively, we own those guys, and it was something to see. Bob, your thoughts? I mean, we talked a little bit about it off the air, but your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, Merry Christmas to you and your family, Alan. Merry Christmas
Y'all
to all
too.
you, all you folks tuning in. And I'd like to give a shout out and a very special Merry Christmas to a friend of mine and a fan, Jeffrey Westfall. Jeffrey, as most of my followers know, I don't own a lot of Saints jerseys. I don't wear a lot. I have plenty of Saints gear, just not a lot of Saints jerseys. But as a late wedding / early Christmas gift, Mr. Westfall, who, by the way, sent me my Jim Everett, starting lineup
Very cool.
a year ago. He sent me an autographed Jim Everett jersey.
Look at that. I could see it was 17, and I'm like, I wonder what the significance of 17 is for Bob. So, but that's great.
He is, and he's an awesome guy. Jim Everett is an awesome guy. I've gotten to know him pretty well. I interviewed him a couple of times also. Jim and John Elway were my two favorite quarterbacks growing up. Jeffrey, I know you're tuning in tonight, so thank you, and God bless you. We're going to get you on this show sometime because I know you're a football historian and a Jim Everett buff yourself. This jersey gets worn, and I told Jeffrey this tonight. For tonight, this jersey gets worn tonight, and then it goes up under glass and goes in my office shrine behind us. But I had to wear it at least once on air. So I'm sorry to jump off of the rails so early. Right off the bat. I had to give a shout out, and everybody knows I'm a big Jim Everett fan too. I'm an old school Saints fan, like you, Alan.
Yeah, hey, that's great because I'm sitting there. Number 17 is actually my son's favorite number too. And he had a 17 for a while. 17 jersey. Now for him, it was Robert Meacham, but he just loves that number 17. So, finding good Jim Everett footage, it's always fun. And the thing about Jim that I really enjoyed when he was a Saints quarterback was, he, even though the Saints never got back to the playoffs and never got that winning season again, he really opened up the offense. You saw the capabilities of this offense with a consistent passer. And until Aaron Brooks came along, he was probably the most consistent, prolific passer for the Saints since Archie Manning's 78, 79 seasons. It just, I really, I was upset when Dick had, let him go or traded into the Chargers. I really was upset just the whole 96 season. I felt like Jim, hey, you got rid of Wesley Walls, you got rid of, Quinn Early, a friend of the show. You're getting rid of all his weapons, and it felt like, I just didn't have a good feeling about that season after that. Once those guys were gone, and we didn't get Eddie George and that kind of stuff, I just, it felt like they were setting Jim up to fail. So
Yeah, and and I felt so bad for him, especially now that I have gotten to know him a little bit. Like I said, I was always a huge fan of Everett, even though he played for the Rams. He was just such a fun quarterback to watch, all the way back to Purdue. Jim had a run of success with the LA Rams, as any Saints historian will know. Um, and he finally got a running game. They traded Eric Dickerson away in Jim's second year in the league, and put the offense completely on his shoulders. Then they finally got another bona fide running back in when they drafted Jerome Bettis, the Rams did, and then traded Everett the very next year to the Saints. The Saints, Jim knew very well, obviously playing twice a year. And any Saints fan was really excited. I know I was thrilled. I'm like, oh yeah, and I love Bobby Hebert, but Bobby Hebert is no Jim Everett. And I thought to myself, I'm like, this offense is going to really take off. And for his first 2 years, it did 94, 95. But just like the running game with the LA Rams, that great dome patrol defense, which we're going to reference many times tonight, when we get back on this Tampa Bay game, the dome patrol defense was starting to quickly evaporate, disintegrate, really. I think two of the four linebackers were already gone by the time Jim got here, and Sam Mills was gone by 94. And the secondary had gotten old, the defensive line had gotten old. So all of a sudden, the Saints team that we were used to seeing in 13-10 games, we're now losing 31-28 and 34-31. That kind of thing. I think Jim was one of the greatest quarterbacks of the 80s and 90s. That just never played on that great team. Like an old school Saints fan, those damn 49ers always got in the way of his Rams. It was basically the 49ers, and then whoever battled it out, won out second place between the Rams and Saints every single year would go in as the wild card.
I often make the joke, the Saints signed free agents based on whether or not you kicked our ass in an important game during those days. Because think about it. I mean, they signed Michael Haynes. Michael Haynes almost single-handedly beat them in the 1991 playoff game. That's really when it took off. In 1990, Brad Muster, we signed him. Brad Muster was kicking our ass in the 1990 playoff game against the Bears. Eric Allen picks off Bobby Hebert in 2000 and in 1992. That playoff game, we signed him. And Jim Everett, I'm throwing him in the same group because Jim Everett, you guys may or may not remember, the game that Flipper Anderson in 1989 set the record for receptions yardage. He only got one TD. That was Jim Everett throwing the ball. Jim Everett threw for 454 yards that night. And I remember that number because it's also an engine block size, because that's how my mind works. But yeah, 454, man. But so absolutely. I mean, it's funny how that was, and I used to be able to predict it. Saints are going to sign this guy because he kicked their ass in the postseason, kicked their ass in an important game. So, it's a shame we couldn't get Flipper Anderson along with it. But so when they brought Jim Everett in, I've told the story before, they had Bubby Brister had agreed to a contract. Now they brought Brett Favre in for like a show. We're serious about free agency. We're going to try and sign Brett Favre away from the Packers. Well, that wasn't going to happen. There's no way on earth the Packers are going to let him go. So they brought Bubby Brister in, and I hung my head. I'm like, man, Bubby Brister, really? You think just because he went to Northwestern like Bobby did, you're going to go and get another Bobby Hebert type of quarterback? And they made the trade for Jim Everett that night, and Brister was shocked. Brister, there's an article on in Sports Illustrated in the archives. Brister was shocked. He thought he was really going to get on the team, and here they make the announcement: Jim Everett. We traded for Jim Everett. So I was very relieved, very happy we got Jim. So I'm glad you got that jersey. That's a great number. Great player. Obviously Drew Brees. Aaron Brooks, Archie Manning, Bobby Bear have all eclipsed him as far as either fan favorites or, um, the most prolific passers. But Jim Everett's right there. I mean, he
Yep.
is right there in that group. So um, we could have used a Jim Everett though Sunday night. We'll talk
Yeah.
about Taysom Hill in a minute. You know, the thing about this, and you and I talked about this last week. We said that for whatever reason the Saints are Tom Brady's kryptonite, and we went through what had to happen, and it's almost like they watched this show. I mean, they followed step for step what we said you've got to do. Rush with four, lock down Mike Evans, and then bracket, keep Godwin under control, and take away the running game and put it all on Brady and get in Brady's face, and he's not going to like it. And lo and behold, that's what they did. What was the most surprising thing to you last Sunday night?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, and I know we'll get back to the offense, but I want to hit on the offense real quick. I was surprised that Pete Carmichael came out and had Taysom Hill throw from the pocket so much in those first two series.
Mm-hmm.
And they did take advantage. Taysom hit Marquez Callaway twice in the first half on deep routes, both of which set up field goals. The first of those deep shots was on the Saints' second drive, which set up their first field goal of the game, which it turned out that's all the points that the Saints needed. And then defensively, I was surprised that Dennis Allen didn't blitz as often as what I thought he was going to do. They faked the blitz a lot, but they dropped into coverage, and they had a lot of confidence that their front four, sometimes even three rushers, would disrupt Brady enough to get him off schedule. And that's exactly what happened. I knew they'd have to pressure Brady to win, and I felt confident they'd be able to pressure him. I just was surprised at the way it happened. It was all down linemen, and there were a couple times that a defensive end, that Carl Granderson lined up at defensive end, and either Cam or Davenport lined inside, and Granderson actually dropped into coverage while Aquan Alexander came. So they're still bringing only four rushers. So I really love the way Dennis Allen mixed up his rushers and his pass coverage assignments.
Well, one of the things that surprised the hell out of me, and I loved it, was they put Cam and Davenport on the same side. Did you catch that? And Davenport would line up to the outside, and Cam would come to the inside. And I think on one of those was one of the sacks he got. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about more of this in a minute, but a lot of Tampa fans are bitching that, hey, you took out our best players. Congratulations, you beat our practice squad, which, of course, it's like, oh, Tom Brady's your practice squad quarterback now, and that kind of stuff. But, when you saw Godwin go down, then you saw Evans go out with that. He had that one catch, that great catch, and then hurt his hamstring, and now they're saying they're going to probably put Leonard Fournette on injury reserve probably for the rest of the season and try and bring him back for the playoffs. I mean, I kept saying the whole time, now it's even, because now your offense has to play what we have to play with, and that's not to dismiss Kamara or dismiss Ingram. But the fact is, we couldn't throw the ball, and we have an injured quarterback. We've talked about it all season long, but we have marginal receivers and marginal tight ends. We don't have a Gronk. We don't have a Cameron Brate. We had him, but we don't have him now. We don't have those guys. So he's got actual legitimate passing targets to catch the ball. Thank God Callaway did what he did. Because, if we were going to rely on, and I think that's what one of the things Taysom said later on, the play calling that they were going to start doing, once they saw how well the defense was playing, the play calling was, we're not going to put this ball at risk. We're not going to turn over and put it in a short field. So yeah, it was miserable to watch. Why are they running the ball on third down? Why are they throwing these little short dump passes that are short of the sticks? Why don't they push the ball deep? And it was, quite frankly, when we're going to let our punter kick it and make Brady, with that limited offense, play against our defense, try and march the ball down the field. We're confident he's not going to be able to do it. So I got to give him credit for that.
Absolutely. I think one of the reasons Tom Brady has been so successful, other than the referees and JFK assassin Roger Goodell, one of the reasons why Brady has been so successful is because of the fear other teams have of him, and they give him so much cushion, or they play so vanilla because they're just so afraid of him. And Dennis Allen and Cam Jordan, Mario Davis, et cetera, they have never played against Brady with that kind of fear. And, even back when the couple of times that they played Tom when he was in New England, they still had success against him. And I think that that's a big reason why. As a fan, you're literally biting your fingernails down to the bone because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. But that's just how confident that these guys are in their abilities against Brady and those weapons. And Godwin going down was big. Evans against the Saints, not so much, because he's the gutless wonder anyway. You get a little bit physical with Mike Evans, and he'll usually bow out. We've seen him before. If not physically, then certainly mentally or emotionally. And losing Fournette in the second half was huge.
Absolutely.
But Tampa, like you pointed out, Tampa Bay still had Rojo, still had Ronald Jones, who led the team in rushing the previous 2 years, and is a decent reason. No Fournette, but it's like having Mark Ingram to fall back on when Kamara gets dinged up. You feel pretty good about that situation. Brady still had Gronkowski, who Malcolm Jenkins was having all kinds of problems against. The only way they were able to contain Gronkowski was, just as you, me, and Sean put it last week, hope that Quan Alexander or DeMario can cover him, because I didn't think Malcolm Jenkins would be able to match Gronkowski, and I was right. The only time Gronk was really not able to get open was when Quan was on him. And I think that they're going to have to employ that same kind of defensive strategy this week against the Miami Dolphins and Mike Gesicki, because he's one hell of a tight end. But yeah, this defense, we've said it for the last 6 or 8 weeks. If the Saints are going to go to the playoffs, it's going to be on the shoulders of this defense, which means we're going to see some sometimes ugly offensive football.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I was really impressed with, aside from Dennis Allen's scheme, was the tackling. I thought they played. They did not let them get yards after the catch. They really clamped down on those guys early. And one of the things, Avery Perkins and I message each other a lot, and Avery and I were talking about this. One of the reasons we think that the Saints defense just isn't awed or intimidated by Tom Brady is because for the last 15 years, and I'm just saying in general, you went up against an MVP level quarterback every day in practice. And, I've got the 2009 game playing right now back here. This is the legendary Miami comeback, on the road to the Super Bowl. But, Jonathan Vilma is on that defense, and Vilma used to talk about he and Breeze would be playing mind games and jawing with one another about this. So that instills a level of confidence, and that carried over with DeMario Davis. They were still, talking about, oh yeah, you got me on that one, but I'm gonna get you on the next one, that kind of thing. And I think that's how they look at it. Like, he's just a quarterback. He's no different than when we had to face Breeze. We watch what Breeze does. We're gonna watch what he does, and we'll take away the stuff he likes to do. And the stuff Brady likes to do is, at his age, is the short dump off passes. You take that away, make him hold that ball, and he's 44 years old. He's got to throw that ball a long way, and it's hard for him. And he does not like to be touched.
No.
when you start hitting him, even if it's right when he lets the ball go, it bothers him. He gets
Mhm.
flustered, and you could see that. And of course, let's hear it for Chauncey Gardner Johnson. I mean, I put it on the show's tonight picture. That picture will probably be forever associated with Saints versus the Brady forever.
Mhm.
Him with his arms folded, looking at him with that smile on his face, like, and I'm just like, I can't believe he did that. And Brady's looking at him like, what the hell? And the fact that there's one Brady's so much taller than him
Yeah.
too, that's what makes it even funnier. It's just it was perfect.
See, what
Um,
was funny to me was that Brady noticeably turned. I mean, the TV cameras caught him, and that's where the picture comes from.
mhm.
Brady turning, smiling, and saying something. He was talking to the ref, and he
Yeah.
wanted a taunting flag.
Yep.
Yet later in the game, you have Brady, stomping over to the Saints sideline and saying, "Go f yourself" to Ryan Nielsen like a 2-year-old, like
Uh-huh.
a foul mouth 2-year-old. Um, and it's still no taunting flag after that.
Oh
I
no.
appreciate, and I know, Saints fans are always, jabbing at Buccaneers fans, especially, the Brady Buccaneers fans, saying, look, we aren't really rivals. The Falcons are our rivals. For old school fans like yourself and me, you include the Vikings and 49ers in with right up there with the Falcons, but not so much the Buccaneers. But I'll tell you what, these players on both sides, there is a rivalry brewing between the players on both sides. Because
Yes.
Tampa Bay has a lot of LSU players, a lot of SEC players, and just the type of intensity that exists in the Tampa Bay locker room and in the New Orleans locker room. You started to see it around 2016, 2017. When the Saints themselves became a more physical team instead of the finesse team that we had seen through most of the 2010 and beyond. When you play a physical team, the only way to beat them is by being physical. And Tampa Bay has brought in some physical players over the last couple years, and then you have Brady, who jaws a lot on the field. If you've ever heard him
Mhm.
mic'd up,
Mhm.
so this is a legitimate rivalry between. It's not between the fan bases, not really, but it is a legitimate rivalry between the players on both sides.
Yeah, I had to throw this out there, and I think I tweeted it. I don't remember, but I said, I watched the Saints play Joe Montana a lot, and granted, we were on the losing edge a lot of those matchups, but I never saw Joe Montana lose his cool as consistently as Brady does when you get in his face and
Nope.
you start hitting him and you start picking off his passes, and he just he's and people have been sharing the picture. He's got the Karen hairstyle, and he's just like, I need to speak to the manager about this. No one's supposed to be picking off my passes. No one's supposed to be touching me. I'm supposed to be able to stand here and just pick my targets and get all the accolades, and everyone loves me. And yeah, I'm TB12. Don't you know who I am? I got a supermodel wife. And it's funny to see his jersey dirty and he's mad about it. You
Yep.
know, in fact, I was remarking that because the Saints, of course, had their white jerseys on with the gold pants, and Taysom Hill, because he had been running the ball, the whole back of his jersey is green. And the same with Mark Ingram, he's got stitches coming out of his number. He
Yeah.
because of the hits and stuff, and the fact that Tom Brady had grass in his helmet, and he had a little bit of you could see grass stains on the white for the four, for his, for the 2 and the 1, and that kind of. I loved it because I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, Nate, it's like the way I put it. We just took Tom Brady into a dive bar and gave him a swirly.
Yeah.
And he did not like it. We took a pretty boy out back, beat his ass, threw it in daddy's BMW, and said, "Be on your way." That's the kind of game it was, and it was just so enjoyable to see that. Because we've done it 4 times.
Yeah.
And if Jared Cook doesn't fumble the ball, we probably do it 5 times. So yeah, Yes, we do need Chauncey Gardner-Johnson mic'd up. Um, and the funny thing is, I don't think he really curses or says things that bad. I think he honestly just says shit to him.
Yeah.
Just, and that mouth must run 24/7, and you get sick of hearing that voice just going.
Mhm.
And I think that's what it is. You know, um, like uh, we saw at the end of the game earlier this year in the dome. The game is over. Everyone's shaking hands, and he's still running his mouth, and it pissed off Leonard Fournette, who starts a fight when they're all
Mhm.
shaking hands. Meanwhile, we got a prayer circle around the center of the field, but there's a fight getting ready to break out. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's just that's what I think it is. It's just that constant running of his mouth, and people just get sick of hearing that crap. Um,
Yeah,
so
but back to Brady.
yeah.
Look at the two Super Bowls that he lost to the Giants.
Hmm.
Talent wise, New York had no business being on the same field as those New England teams. But the Giants and those Tom Coughlin teams, they owned Brady. Why? Because they beat the hell out of him with their defensive line. They punished his receivers when they caught the ball, and they just frustrated Brady no end. And that's exactly what Dennis Allen's defenses have done to Brady, especially since he signed with Tampa Bay. Um, One of the there's a handful of reasons why Brady will never be anywhere close to the greatest that's ever played, and same with Rodgers. And that's the reason. And again, I'm an old school thinker, but the Joe Montanas, the John Elways, the Terry Bradshaws, even the Jim Everetts,
Hmm.
the notch below the Hall of Fame greats. How many times did you see those guys take a beating and they played the same way entering the fourth quarter, and you just knew, especially Montana, Elway, Staubach, you just knew that they were going to throw a dagger through your heart by the early fourth quarter. And you and I talked about this before we went on the air. By the early midway part of the fourth quarter, the Saints were ahead 6-0. And as soon as you pointed out, as soon as Cam stripped Brady of that ball, and the Saints moved in position for a field goal that put them up 9-0, I think you were still scared as a fan, but you realistically knew this game is over because you saw Tom Brady, just his mannerisms out on the field. He was out of it. They took him out of it.
I mean, again, Chauncey Gardner Johnson had an excellent troll, but yeah, exactly. Brady takes that tablet, that Microsoft tablet, and throws it. Doesn't even look at it, just throws it because
Mhm.
he's so frustrated because and of course Chauncey Gardner Johnson did that incredible Deion Sanders like baiting of him. I'm daring you to throw this ball because I know I'm gonna break on your slow ass pass
Yep.
and pick it off. And even Chris Collinsworth is like, oh yeah, that's a Deion Sanders move.
Mhm.
You know, kick it a high gear right when that ball goes because you know it's coming and you just take it. And yeah, Cam Jordan too. We haven't even talked about Cam hitting the 100-yard, the century mark for sacks, which again is an incredible feat.
Yeah.
I am very, very, very happy that he is the one that got 100 sacks because my favorite pass rushers for this Saints team have been guys like Wayne Martin,
Mhm.
uh, Cam Jordan, Pat Swilling,
That's
and
mine. Yeah.
Leroy Glover. Those are my top four. It's not a knock on Ricky. I love Ricky too, but those four guys, just the personality they gave this franchise. I mean,
Mhm.
Leroy Glover, Pat Swilling, and Cam Jordan like to talk, and they're fun to listen to. But Wayne Martin was that calm, quiet guy, and he gets 15 and a half sacks, and you realize, holy shit, he's playing on as a defensive end in a 3-4 defense with Ricky Jackson and Pat Swilling on either side of you, and
Yeah.
you still got 15 and a half sacks. How do you do that? And he just did it. And he had that great, the little gun hand motion he did every time he did, just like Cam Jordan with the stacking him up. And it was perfect. And that's what made him such a class act. So I'm very happy Cam did it.
I am
Cam's
too.
got to get Cam's got to get 16 more
Mhm.
to pass Ricky on just for the Saints. And if you want to get technical, Ricky's got 8 his rookie year in 2000. I mean, in 1981. It don't account officially because they didn't
Right.
start counting sacks. So I'm hoping Cam can stay a couple more seasons, and like Ingram passing um, um, Deuce McAllister, I'd like to see Cam hit number one on this. And he's got his favorite quarterback coming up in 2 weeks,
Yeah, he does.
Matt Ryan. So he has an opportunity. He has an opportunity to at least get at least closer to 10 than he
Hmm.
does 15 in one season. So
Alan, is Cam Jordan a Hall of Famer? If he retired at the end of this year, is he a Hall of Famer?
that's hard. Unfortunately, Ricky had to go to San Francisco to get his Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, you know, that's what defensive ends get judged by, because I still feel like um, um, the Vikings, Jim Marshall, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He's never gotten in
Hmm.
because of his longevity and because of his play. So without that ring, it's hard for him to go in. It really is. I think he is one of the top 5 all-time Saints players. I mean, you got to put the 4 Hall
Hmm.
of Famers in front of him. And I think if Sam Mills gets in the Hall, it kind of pushes Cam down a slot, because I'm always going to go, Rofe, Jackson, Rofe,
Yeah.
um, Anderson. They're going to be the Hall of Famers. I mean, Breeze,
Agreed.
obviously, they're all Hall of Famers. So I just feel like he's got to get that ring to get into the NFL Hall of Fame.
I would agree with that. He's either got to get the ring or he has got to somehow string together 4 or 5 more seasons of double-digit sacks. Uh, and yeah, and can't, yeah, let's face reality. Cam's slowing down. I don't know if he has 4 or 5 more years left in him,
Mm-hmm.
at least at this level. Yeah, first of all, and I see you, Anna. I think it's a travesty. I know everybody talks about Sam Mills, and I'm right up there. I think it's an absolute travesty that Pat Swilling is also not in the Hall of Fame. And yeah, I think, and Leroy Glover too. Although Glover, if he gets into the Hall, it'll be more or less for his accomplishments out after he left New Orleans. With the Raiders and the Cowboys. But I think Cam Jordan. I agree with you. I think right now, numbers wise, if you took the fleur de lis off the side of his head and just compared generic numbers and generic players, Cam is probably fringe Hall of Fame. But he
Mm-hmm.
either needs a ring or another 4 or 5 years of double-digit sacks. And honestly, if life were fair, Swilling and Mills would get in before Cam in the first place. I'm trying
Yeah.
not to be a homer here, and I'm trying to be realistic, but I
No, no,
agree with
no.
you. I think Cam is one of the best all around defensive linemen to play in the NFL the last 10 years. But we all know it's about glitz and glamour now.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than how well a defensive end plays the run. If he's only getting 12 or 13 sacks a year as opposed to 20 or 22 sacks a year.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And once again, bring up back bad memories. That was just how 2018, that no call just screws us,
Yeah.
because Cam would have gotten his ring in
Yeah.
2018, because I have no doubt we beat the Patriots that year. Um, again, it's a franchise. It's a Hall of Fame level defining moment, because Cam gets a ring, Kamara gets a ring, Breeze gets 2 rings,
Mm-hmm. Sean
Peyton
might
gets
need another
2
ring.
rings. Yeah. These guys get 2, 1 and 2 rings, and now that changes the conversation about them. They now have that behind them, the accolades, the All Pro and the Pro Bowls don't seem to matter as much anymore. It's all about the glitz, the jewelry. You know, It's the same reason why Tom Brady keeps getting called a GOAT, because he's got 7 rings. And I'm
Right.
like, but yeah, but he lost. You know, Terry Bradshaw, Bob Greasy, Joe Montana, they don't know what it's like to lose a Super Bowl. Roger Staubach does, but I mean, they don't know. So if you look at, going back to the 70s, Steelers and Cowboys, two of the most, we can even throw the Raiders in there. Some of the greatest player collections of all time, and yet you count the number of Hall of Famers on the Steelers versus the number of Hall of Famers on the Cowboys. Why? Because 4 Super Bowls in 6 years versus 2 Super Bowl wins in 8 years, beginning 1970, 9 years. If we count Super Bowl 5, because Staubach was really 71, but let's just say 70. So, and the Cowboys have never forgotten that. They bring it up all the time. They feel like a lot of players that do not get the recognition they deserve because they weren't 4-time Super Bowl winners. And the Raiders do too. The Raiders talk about Cliff Branch, for example, not getting in the Hall of Fame, but Lynn Swann and John Stallworth are in there. And once again, Drew Pearson is finally in. But how long did Drew have to wait? So yeah, that's what I feel like, hurts Cam in this regard. He doesn't get that. He doesn't get that kind of thing. Sam Mills really, really deserves that, and fortunately, it's not like Cooperstown. You don't go in representing a franchise. It's a bust, and they put all your they put all your stuff in the display. I mean, they're going to have shit from USFL in there for Sam. So it doesn't matter that you go in as with a certain team. But I think Sam gets in.
Anymore. It used to about 15, 20 years, up until about 15, 20 years ago. Like the big thing I remember with Marcus Allen. Are you going to go in as a Raider or a Chief?
Oh, yes, I remember that. Yes, I do remember that.
But you're right. That narrative has changed. It's not like it is with Cooperstown in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
It and a lot of it is because of free agency.
Mm-hmm.
You change to so many different teams. Anna, that's why I brought up Jim Marshall. Jim Marshall was the original Iron Man. We talked about Brett Favre's consecutive start streak. Jim Marshall, as a defensive end, never missed a game his whole career. And he's known as the wrong way runner, which here we're going to tie a Saints thing in. Whose fumble he picked up, right? That was Billy Kilmer who fumbled. It was a pass from George Myra to Billy Kilmer. Kilmer fumbled, and that's what Marshall picked up and ran the wrong way at Old Kezar Stadium. But yeah, I think not missing a game, only missing one game his entire career doesn't do enough to get him in the Hall. Just like getting 100 sacks doesn't do enough to get him in the Hall, because people are just going to be like, yeah, but he played for the Saints and he never won a championship. Can you think of a game that I can, but people are going to be like, can you think of a championship game or an important game where he just kind of took over like a Reggie White? That's what unfortunately the conversation becomes, and it's not fair. I don't like it. Again, I think he deserves it, but it's just so hard today. It really is. Well, he says, John says, if Mills goes in this year, I'll see you in Canton. I've already got my hotel room booked for 5 years from now when Drew goes, so I'll be there for that one.
Yeah, and Canton's about 2.5 hours from me. So I guarantee I'm the family and I are definitely making the trek for Breeze. If Pat Swilling sneaks his way in at any point in time, I've talked to Pat a couple of times. A very nice guy too, by the way. And honestly, I could tell you from experience, from talking to him directly, it burns his ass that Ricky Jackson is the only one of those 4 in the Hall of Fame.
It burns my ass he's not in the Ring of Honor. It burns my ass he's not in that Ring of Honor.
Yeah, me too. And Pat Swilling will probably be the next non-Saint, the next Saint from not this current era that gets in. You got to believe that if they just put Sam Mills in, Pat Swilling has got to be next. And then you talk about Wayne Martin and some of those other guys. But yeah, I mean if Mills, Swilling, certainly when Breeze goes in, I am definitely making the trip to Canton. And folks, if it's within driving distance or reasonable trip distance for you to make the trip to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you need to do so at least once in your life. You won't regret it. It's changed a little bit over the years, but if you're a football fan, especially a football historian, you have to make that trip.
I've already warned my wife. I said, you might as well just go somewhere for the day when I
Mm-hmm.
go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame because you're not getting me out of there under 6 hours. There's no way, no way I'm not getting out of there in less than 6 hours. I'm probably going to be there from opening to closing because that's just how I am. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm crazy enough about museums. Smithsonian Air and Space Museum,
I
the
love that.
World War II Museum here in New
Yep.
Orleans. I mean, you're just not getting me out of there because I'm going to sit here and look at this stuff. I'm going to name this. I'm going to do this. I'm just getting into that, and I've been like that my whole life.
Yeah.
I went to the Washington D.C. for the first time in 1979, and that was the first time I've been to the Smithsonian, and my parents are like, Alan, we got to go. I'm like, not yet. I want to see this. I want to read this. Back then you had this wand that you waved in front of the thing, and the speaker would come on and
Mhm.
tell you about whatever it is you were looking at.
Yep.
And yeah, I was like, I'm listening to every single thing I'm looking at because I
Yep.
want to know everything is about this, and that's just how I was. And you know, back then I was really into the Civil War and just learning about
See?
the Civil War, and now I'm more into World War II than the Civil War. But yeah, that's just how I was. So yeah, the World War II Museum, it is a lot of fun. It really is interesting. They did a great job. I'm looking forward to the expansion of
Mhm.
things. They're always adding new exhibits to it, so it's really really good. So anybody comes for a Saints game, we got two home games left. Monday night against the Dolphins, which we'll talk about in a second, and of course the season finale against the Panthers in the Dome, and then of course they travel to Atlanta the last week of the season. But spend the weekend, come the whole weekend.
Mhm.
Go spend a day at the World War II Museum and then go to the Saints game on Sunday. And it's really, really good. So I've got Dolphins games playing back here. Oh, this is the 1980 game I got on right now.
Was
Okay.
that was that David Woodley or Bob Greasy that I
That
saw?
was that was David Woodley.
Okay.
That was David Woodley. Now, this is the first half. So Woodley plays the first half, and the Saints take 16 to nothing lead, I think, in the first half. I mean, they were just eating the Dolphins up. So they go and pull Woodley, put Bob Greasy in, and Greasy, of course, rallies the team. They come back and win. This is Greasy's last year in the NFL, I think. And the thing about this game in the 1980 season, Chuck Muncie suspended in this game because he was late. He didn't come to like the middle of the second quarter, the week before, and he gets traded the following week to San Diego, and that's for a second round pick, and that's the pick that becomes Ricky Jackson. Okay, so this game here, they are winning, and Greasy comes in, gets him, brings him all the way back, and Archie has one last drive. He throws a touchdown pass to Ike Harris just as time expires. They rule that Ike Harris pushed off. Well, you watch this game, it's clear he did not push off. And Pete Rozelle and the officials said, oh, look, my bad. Saints didn't push, Ike Harris didn't push off. That flag should have been called. Saints should have won that game. They lost it. This game and the opening week against the 49ers, those were pivotal games because it's like the whole team fell apart after that.
Yeah.
It just they couldn't get over every time something went wrong, it was like, man, here we go again. And the team unraveled from this point. So this is a critical game, this Dolphins game, because Had they won this game, I think that 1-15 season turns out to be a better team than that. So, um, what's this? And Alan, when did the Saints first beat Dan Marino? 1983. I was at that game, and that highlight will come up in a minute. Um,
Wasn't that Marino's first NFL start?
Yeah, I think it was his. Yeah, you're right. My bad. Yeah, it seemed familiar. Yeah, very much so. I think it was
I
either
thought
his
so.
first start or the first game they put him in. And the highlights are going to come up in a second on here. But I was at that game. I was sitting back then, the Loge level, the plaza level. The seats were so far back, you're actually under the overhang of the loge above you, so it's hard to see. It wasn't a very good thing, but I was in an end zone seat for that game, and yeah, Dan Marino came out there, and we still beat him. We shut him out. In fact,
Mhm.
if I remember right, I think the final touchdown was either a Bruce Clark or a Frank Warren fumble for return for a touchdown on Marino, but that was an interesting game, and like I said, the highlights are coming up in a minute on here. I programmed this thing to run different highlights. So yeah, that's the first one, 83, and they played him again in 92, and they beat him in 92. That's the clip you see Pat Swilling stretching, and he's talking to NFL Films. He says, "Gotta get to Marino. You gotta
Yeah.
get Marino." And that was the key. They could rush Marino. So it's funny. The Saints don't play the Dolphins very often. They're going to play them a lot more now because everybody's in a four-year rotation. But there's not a whole lot of Dolphins Saints games on record.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a 6-6 series history between the two. I will be writing about that either tomorrow or what the hell day is this? Either tomorrow or Thursday. That one, that one's going to come out. But yeah, you're
yeah,
right. Not a lengthy and not a real memorable series history. Probably the two most memorable games. I mean, you hit on the 1980, 1983 season also. Other than that, the comeback, Breeze's comeback in 2009, which a
mhm,
lot of people feel, like really springboarded the Saints, to the season, to the Super Bowl title season that they had. And that's certainly one of the key games if you look back at that schedule. And then the other one was what was it 2013? Where that offense on a Monday night or a Sunday night, just it just became the monster. That it was one of those monstrous Sean Payton, Drew Brees outings.
Oh yeah. That's the one where Peyton is mic'd up and he said this defense is like ordering Denny's at 2 a.m. You're not gonna get what you asked for. You're just gonna get whatever they got. Um, yeah, he and the 2017 game is important too. That's the one when they went to England and
Yeah.
they played that game, and I forgot they were playing in England. And I woke up at like 9 o'clock that morning, and I go turn on the pregame, and the Saints are on. I'm like, shit, I missed the whole first quarter, So, um, but that was a turnaround game
Hmm.
that built what became the 2017 season. I mean, the Detroit game was really, I think, the game where you really saw how this team could be. But they had lost the first two games of the season, and that game played in London. They shut the Dolphins out, if I remember right.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
So,
They had lost to the Vikings and the Patriots to start the year, and they won the next two, the London game against Miami, and then the following week at Carolina, and
mhm,
those were the first 2 weeks that we really saw started to see what the Saints had in Alvin Kamara.
mhm.
Because there was a lot of Adrian Peterson or Mark Ingram those first 2 weeks, and then I think Ingram scored his first touchdown against the Dolphins, and then the following week against Carolina, we saw what he could do as an all-purpose threat.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's some critical games in there, but early on, I mean, they played the Saints played the Dolphins in 1970, the first year of the merger, and Don Shula's first year with the Dolphins, so they beat the Saints pretty handily, and then they played him in '74. So you're still dealing with perfect Dolphins, even though Larry Zonka and Jim Kick and Paul Warfield are gone. They still have the no name defense. They're still playing at a high level, and they shut out the Saints. So that's the last that the Saints play the Dolphins in the whole '70s.
Mm-hmm.
They don't play them again until 1980. This game here, they play him in '83, and I think they don't play him again till to the '90s. I don't think they played him in the rest of the '80s. I don't think they played him again till '92. So yeah, it's very strange, just because the way they used to do the scheduling. So, speaking of shutouts, this was Tom Brady's first shutout since he played the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. You went quiet on me, Alan. I can't. I can see you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this wire is getting loose and it disconnected real quick. So I had to come out and get back in. But I was going to say, this was the first time Tom Brady has been shut out, and it was against the Dolphins in 1986 with Nick Saban as as head coach. And in both Peyton Manning and Drew Brees' entire career, they have never been shut out. They've always managed to score. What is it about, again, here's one more knock against the so-called GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
You've gotten shut out before. And it wasn't because you were playing on a bad team. You were playing on a good team. You were playing on a team that was the highest scoring team in the NFL. It was the first time a team that was ranked the highest scoring team was shut out this late in the season. I mean,
Yeah. And it was the way they did it. First of all, and I'm not patting myself on the back for this, but I will point out that you're so very, very, very rarely wrong. But Peyton Manning did get shut out. He's never been shut out in the regular season. His Indianapolis Colts were shut out by the New York Jets in a wild card playoff game. 41-0. It was pretty early in Peyton's career, second, third, maybe fourth year. Peyton's never been shut out in a regular season game. Drew Brees has never been shut out, like you pointed out, in any way, shape, or form. It's one of those statistical anomalies. The Brady haters like myself like to sit back and point and say, you know what, the greatest of all time, that wouldn't have happened. To the true greatest of all time. But yeah, again, this Saints defense, if they're going to go to the playoffs, they need to sweep their last three for their best chance. But it's going to be on the performance of this defense, and they need to play. I'm not going to say that they played perfect on Sunday night, but they played pretty damn close to it. They have a very small margin for error defensively the rest of the way because of this offense.
Would you rank this as the best defensive performance you've seen as a Saints fan in a winning cause, I guess?
Okay, because there was one or two games against the Montana 49ers that would be up there, but they lost. Yeah. I remember, and it was either the 91 or 92 season opener against the Eagles. That the Saints just played out of their mind defensively.
92, because that was the year. That was Jerome Brown had died that off season.
Yeah.
So that was the big deal, and of course the rematch was the playoff game.
Right. But that it tells you something about this defensive performance that we have to go back that long just to even find a comparison. And that's just a testament to how well these guys played. So yeah, I mean, if it's not the best Saints defensive performance I've ever seen, it's obviously right up there. If we have to reach back in my cobweb our archives just for a comparison.
Yeah, the closest I could come to a similar performance, but it was in a loss, was the 1990 opener against the 49ers. They lost 13-12. But just what they were doing to the 49ers on Monday Night Football. The 49ers, the defending Super Bowl champs, in fact, two-time Super Bowl champs, and they were going for their three-peat that year. And that's the preview they even showed before the game. Roger Craig, we're going to do it, three-peat. With him holding the Lombardi Trophy, he just won in the Dome. So last time they were in the Dome, they blew out the Broncos, won the Super Bowl. They're talking about three-peat already. And the Saints defense just came out smoking. I think they sacked Montana 5 times. They picked him off twice. It's just one of those. They really shook the 49ers. And it just, the offense just could not get anything going. And 4K did make a turnover. And that cost him a touchdown after a fumble recovery deep in 49ers territory. And also 4K, a turnover from that 4K turnover led to a 49ers touchdown, which really was the difference in that game. And they had multiple opportunities defensively, They gave the offense to at least kick a field goal. Morton Anderson missed a critical one that could have made it 15 to and he wasn't even close. I mean, he hooked it badly. It was, it was probably one of his worst kicks. But but defensively, the Saints defense was just on fire that night. They really were clamping down. I think Rice only caught 2 passes the whole game. I mean, it was just that kind of performance. So, I used to use that all the time as a benchmark to just show you how good that defense, that Dome Patrol defense was. And here's one. This is a team that's defending Super Bowl champs again, expected to be a repeat champ, and we just took it to them in their home stadium. That one was in the Dome. This is like going to Candlestick and just taking the 49ers and beating them, and it just, that was probably, and I see Anna's got 2006. Okay, are you saying a defensive performance in 2006, Anna, that you liked a lot? Because it's hard for me to think of one in 2006. Maybe the playoff game against the Eagles, but they let some big runs go in that game, so that was just a good overall performance by the team. The offense really kind of bailed them out. I can't really think of Dome opener in 2006 against Michael Vick and the Falcons.
Yeah,
that might be the game.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one because they blocked an Anderson field goal in that one, and really it was one of those games that they weren't going to win. There was no way they were going to win that game. They just once you block that punt, in the Gleason block and that, and just the way the Dome exploded, they weren't going to lose that game. And it's funny because I was at that one too. John Butler's probably, you were at every important game. I wasn't at every one, but I was at that game, and I can remember sitting there watching the pregame warm-ups, and there's Morton Anderson kicking field goals, 40, 50 yards away, and the guy about 3 seats over from me is just like, there's the game winner right there. He's going to hit the game winner. He's going to. And, and I always point to that moment was, because that's what you expected. That's what you've been conditioned to expect. How are we going to lose this game? And from that game forward, that kind of talk never happened again. People were always like, my daughter is a great example. Here she is. I would say most of her life, because she is 23. Breeze has been around for 15 years, so most of her knowledge of football or being awareness of football has been Drew Brees pulling these games out and she never experienced that negativity. So it's like an entire generation of people expecting the Saints, hey, we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And, um, yeah, I knew John was going to throw that one up. I was at that game. I was, here we go. I was at this game too. Monday Night Football versus Raiders, 1991, 27-0 win, only gave up 117 yards. I was at that one too. Bobby Abear came back.
That's a good one too.
And again, here we're going to relate this to my personal life. I had met my wife for the second time a few days before that game, that Monday night game, the week before that game. It was a Tuesday night. I met her at the bar, and I know that because it was the last night of finals that year in '91, and the Saints played next on Monday night. And for my birthday, some friends bought tickets. We all went to the Saints game Monday night against the Raiders. So I was at that game. So that's why I was at that one.
Another one that comes to mind for me, for personal reasons, in 1988, John Elway, Vance Johnson, and that explosive
Oh,
offense. Yeah, 42-0. I thought Pat Swilling killed John Elway, literally killed John Elway that game.
yeah.
I've never seen an Elway offense more inept than what they were that afternoon in the Dome.
And once again, they were defending champions, AFC championships. They were just in the Super Bowl against was that the Redskins that year?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the Redskins Super Bowl, yeah. So they were just in that Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, and because they played the Giants the year before. And here comes Elway and all those weapons, the drive to, all that's going through your mind, and the Saints just took a broomstick and beat the hell out of him with it like an old rug hanging up on the clothesline. I mean, they just really beat the hell out of this guy. So yes, I remember that game too. That was a hell of a performance. So the Dolphins are riding a 6-game winning streak. They struggled a little bit with the Jets.
Yeah.
I have good feelings about this game. I'm not going to predict they're going to win. I just have good feelings about this game. How would you beat this Dolphins team if you were, here you are, you're Dennis Allen. How are you going to beat this team?
Well, first of all, I realize the Dolphins are on a 6-game winning streak, but look at who they beat. They beat the Texans, Ravens, so I'll give them that one. Jets twice, Panthers, and Giants. That's other than Baltimore, that's the dregs of the league. The Dolphins are doing it with smoke and mirrors. Now they're every bit as much in the AFC playoff race as the Saints are in the NFC playoff race. So give them their due. The first thing you got to do, you got to establish the run. If you're the Saints offense, not just because that's the way to beat the Dolphins, because frankly, the Dolphins are a better run defense than they are. They don't have a great pass rush. But for any success that the Saints have offensively, it needs to be by running the football. That's just where we are in 2021. So run the football at least somewhat consistently and do not turn it over. Defensively, Tua, it's not that Tua doesn't have passing talent, arm talent. He does. He's fairly mobile. He's a decent athlete. Not much of a runner, but he's a decent athlete in the pocket. Tua Tagovailoa. Tua. He does not have good pocket presence at all. And since he doesn't, and Dolphins quarterbacks have been sacked 31 times this year. You need to pressure him. He's still a pretty young guy, very young guy, somewhat inexperienced for the even at the NFL level. So you can probably force him into turnovers. 14 TDs against 8 interceptions in 9 games. 8 interceptions in 9 games. That tells you that he's prone to a turnover. He's definitely prone to a sack. So you need to pressure him. You can't and you need to do it early. What I've known about Tua so far in his year and a half in the league is that if he gets on an early roll, he can put up some numbers. So if you're Dennis Allen, like you asked about, you got to pressure him early and keep him from getting into a rhythm. If you do that, your secondary is going to have some opportunities for some plays.
I agree with that. I Yeah, some people posting up that the Eagles won, so the Saints are now on the outside because the Eagles beat them head to head. But the Eagles still have a tough schedule to go through.
Yep.
I think they still have to play the Cowboys again.
They got Giants at Washington and home against Dallas.
Yeah, so they let's just mark the Dallas game as a loss for them. Um, was that Minshew playing that game? I think
Uh,
it.
I, I got an update just before we went on there that Jalen Hurts rushed for a touchdown, so he is in the game in some way, shape, or form.
Okay, all right. So, um, but okay, Minshew did not play according to my son. It was all Hurts. Okay, all right. So I just think that that's a game because I don't think Dallas is going to be able to rest their players that last week of the season. So I think that game's going to matter. Um, so yeah, the big thing I think is that the Saints just need to win out, and
Mhm.
I agree with you. I think the Saints need to defensively just clamp down and put a lot of pressure on Tua. Uh, you will get the turnovers. The Dolphins don't run the ball very well. Um, so it's your secondary should be able to handle the Dolphins receivers. Because I think you can just rush four and drop people off and cover because you're not worried about the running game. And it's going to be a field position game. Blake Gilligan, again, it's going to put people on Gilligan's Island, and that's the coffin corner inside the five, which, again, we even talked about him, but, he was masterful at flipping the field. And
Yep.
once again, which explains the play calling that Pete Carmichael was doing with Taysom. I don't need to throw the ball to get out of my own end zone because I can punt the ball from my 5 and I'm going to put your ass inside your 35,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have to go the length of the field again against this defense. Um, One last thing about that, though. Did you notice the rugby scrum that they they ran when the Bucs all like are they going to down the ball because they're all bunched up right there and
Yeah.
all they did was get Taysom, get underneath McCoy's ass and just go forward. And they got a freaking first down off of that
Yep.
too because the next play Ingram ran and Tampa's like, I can't believe they're doing this shit. And they
Yep.
ran the clock out and punted. So I mean, again, that's all factors in play calling. I just want this defense to get turnovers because I think they need a short field. And I think this is the game, knock on simulated wood, that Armstead and or Ramchak return and you can get Kamara going because I think, getting Kamara going against a team like the Dolphins who aren't used to seeing him
Mm-hmm.
is going to be huge in this game. I think Ingram can run the ball a bit too.
Yep.
But I think the big thing is just getting Kamara going, just like you did against the Jets. Get him in space, get him on the outside pass, outside runs, and you should be able to win this game. Um, and after this game, doesn't Harris come back? Harris comes back for the Carolina game.
Yes, he does. He's eligible to
Okay.
come back. This
Okay.
is the final game of his 3-game suspension. Is Miami?
Okay. Good. Good. Because that was one of my concerns was that we weren't going to get Harris back until the end of the season. I didn't want
Mhm.
that to happen. I really needed to get um, I want to get Harris back in another game because I think that also helps the passing game. Although Callaway, he became the first Saints receiver to get 100 yards receiving.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And props to him, too. Props to catching that. That was a beautiful pass that Taysom threw, that first deep pass, and even better catch. What the hell?
I saw AFL, NFL. This must be the
That is
1970.
that's Super Bowl III.
Oh, wow.
I did not mean to play this. This is Super Bowl
That's
III.
okay.
It must have come up in my queue. All right, because I had the Jets from before, so it's still remembering I played the Jets. So yeah, I saw it too. The NBC logo, and I recognized that opening. Yeah, this is Super Bowl III. Okay. Oh well. Hey, last thing before we go off the air. I know how much you love the Steelers, but you know what it's this it'll be 49 years tomorrow. No, the 23rd. 23rd. Today's 21st. 49 years on the 23rd will be the anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. And I was getting set to write something about this, and I said, "No, I'm going to save this for Thursday, because there's more television footage out, and you can see from the reverse angle when from Terry Bradshaw's point of view, when he throws that ball, you can see Tatum hit the ball. I
Yeah.
mean, physics-wise, the ball has to careen off of Tatum, because if
Yes.
it careens off of Frenchie Fuqua, it goes a different direction. That's
Yeah.
just physics. Um, it's got to be from somebody coming straight at the ball, because the ball bounces almost directly opposite of where the ball went. That's just physics. But the Raiders fans are convinced that Fuqua touched it and it was an illegal catch. And
Mhm.
Phil Filippiano still insists he got clipped. He doesn't get clipped because the guy misses it. But my favorite part of that is Filippiano says, Franco, when he ignored Franco because Franco missed his block and he just kind of
Yeah.
drifted out there. He's doing nothing. I'm watching Bradshaw. And when that ball comes out, he says, "Had I been as lazy as Franco, that ball comes to me waist high." And I just think that's hilarious. So,
But he's right.
yeah,
He's right. If you watch replays of that game, or you
there we
see
go.
the elongated,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
where
No,
you
I
see
was
the
not at that
elongated
game.
clip.
I was not at that game. Um, it's just funny. The funny thing about the Immaculate Reception, that became a Popeyes commercial here in New Orleans in 1973. I think when Popeyes first opened, they had taken the NFL Films footage of the Immaculate Reception. And when the crowd's all celebrating and Franco's, like, oh, I can't believe this. And you see Bradshaw grab his helmet and that whole bit. The next shot, they put Franco in there and he's like, I'm going to Popeyes. And there's this crowd of people going to Popeyes right after that. So that's my first experience with the Immaculate Reception. I was too young. I was 1972. I my brother was not even a year old yet, and me, I'm still playing with Lincoln Logs and Tinker Toys and shit like that. I'm not. The football's on, but I'm not focused on that yet. That's still a couple years away. So I was not at that game.
But back to Miami. Jeffrey just made the comment. Stop the run, make Tua sling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, if the Saints had a slight defensive weakness against the Buccaneers, it was in the second half. Tampa Bay had some rushing success with Jones and Fournette
Hmm.
before he went out over their right side. They have to shore that up. Like you pointed out, Alan, Miami doesn't have any rushers that scare you. Duke Johnson had a nice game against the Jets, but it's the Jets.
Yeah.
But the book on a young, inexperienced quarterback is make him have to throw the ball to beat you. And
Hmm.
like we already talked about, Tua does not have very good pocket presence at all. So you need to take advantage of that. The best way to take advantage of that is eliminate the play action. You eliminate the play action by eliminating the threat of running the football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can play the field position game and help this offense out a lot. And the Saints need to run the ball and be effective running the football.
Yeah.
Two tight ends, and we have to see what the COVID list is going to be like again this week because
Yeah, Juwan
you know
Johnson is already out. He was added to the COVID list about an hour or two ago.
yeah, I saw that. So that's even more reason to run the football a lot. Um, the last week against the Buccaneers, I think, was the first time since the first game of the season that all the starters were out on the field together. Um, you had both Marcus Davenport, sorry, and Cam Jordan out there, and Cam Jordan played like a man who was pissed off he missed his first game of the season. So that's important, and the defense is going to have to carry this thing. In fact, my last question to you before we get off the air, not yet. Somebody's asking any word on Armstead or Ramczyk. No, you won't find out anything until probably Thursday and
Yeah, that'd be
Friday.
the first injury report. Yeah, they need. I agree with you. They need at least one of them back.
Mhm.
Hurst has done a nice job at tackle when replacing either Ram or Armstead, but he's not to their level. Hurst's best fit is at guard. Where Throckmorton has played out of his mind. But
Mhm.
you need your pieces back. Even if you have only, and we saw 2 weeks ago against the Jets, Ramczyk was still out, but Armstead was back in on the left side. What did the Saints do? All game long, they ran over the left side. So
Yep.
even if they only get one back, that's the side that they're going to run the ball on and expect them to have success. Because Miami's base front is a 3-4, but their linemen are surprisingly undersized for a 3-4 alignment. They're built to rush the passer.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why running the football really hurts them, especially a physical game where you're really hitting those guys. Again, Taysom Hill, he can hit.
Yeah.
He's effective running the football. I thought last Sunday night there were a couple plays that could have broken open if one or two guys makes their block.
Yeah.
Because there was one they tried to pull the guard, and if Throckmorton could just hit that guy on the edge, Taysom gets a nice lane to run through. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, obviously they're much faster than Tampa's defense. Is much faster than Miami's defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, if they could get these blocks set up perfectly, you can really physically just dominate these guys, lean on them. So it may not break open in the first or second quarter. You just have to be patient, stay in the lead, and let your defense just pound on them. And then in the third and especially the fourth quarter, you're going to see the Dolphins start to fold, and we can start getting those bigger runs and getting those, kind of like what you saw with the Jets, where you really scored 17 points in the last quarter of the game because the Jets were just worn out. All right. Thank you, guys. Let me just throw this up here one more time. One more comment. Hill needs to step in the pocket against the edge rush. Yeah, he does.
He does.
He does. I felt he couldn't do it against the Bucs because the Bucs were putting 7 guys, and it was always somebody coming in clean.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of rolling out away from Sue and Shaq Barrett, trying to roll out away from those guys. That's what they told him to do, and unfortunately, he rolled out into some sacks,
He did.
some coverage things because he had in his head, I got to get away from those guys, and he's rolled into his own coverage just because. Again, this is what his 7th start coming up this week. So, speaking of young quarterbacks, he's making the same mistakes. Last question. What are your big plans for Christmas?
Sadly, my wife Lauren works an overnight shift, so we're not going to be able to spend Christmas. I think she goes in at like 11 p.m. And works until 11 a.m. So the challenge for old man dad will be trying to stall the kids from opening their gifts from Santa.
Oh, there's no way. There is no way.
I know. With the teenager, with Isabella, she's 16. That's not going to be a big problem.
No.
With little 4-year-old Will, I mean, that's just that's literally KGB style torture.
Oh yeah.
So, Jeffrey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you again for everything. I love you, brother. You'll have to you have to tune in with us, Alan, Sean, and myself every week. We do this every Tuesday, guys. So Jeff, spread the word. Spread the word.
Westfall, are you related to the former Phoenix Suns head coach, Paul Westfall? I just, I see a name like that, that jumps out at me. I mean, I see Westfall. Absolutely. I think that. So, yeah, I mean, you'd have an easier time, especially given, like, I'm thinking about my family. My brother, on Christmas Day, I'll tell some Christmas stories next time. But Christmas Day, you'd have an easier time keeping Navy sailors on ship with prostitutes at the dock. You have an easier time keeping them on ship than you would keeping my brother or kids away from Christmas
Yep.
presents Christmas morning. I mean, my God, I
Yep.
mean, it's that level.
The best chance I have for mom getting to see her little boy open at least a couple things is be strategic and letting him open a couple of things, and if he falls in love with the couple of things, get him involved with that. So in other words, elongate the process as long as possible. I need to do what the Saints Saints have to do the rest of the year without an offense is to elongate possessions as long as possible.
Absolutely. To quote Michael from The Office, that's what she said. Yeah, Christmas for me now, because all my kids are grown, is a lot more low key. So, and
we'll
the funny thing
go
is,
over to my parents for dinner with the new puppy. But after that, Christmas with the little ones is so much fun. Like when yours was younger.
Yeah, absolutely. Except I had to wake my kids up on Christmas morning. I couldn't believe it. I had to wake them up. Now they tell me today that, yeah, Dad, we used to wake up middle of the night and go look and see what we got, but then we would go back to bed because we knew we couldn't get up early enough to wake you guys up.
Right.
I'm like, you're better than my brother. Oh, I kept telling him to turn off all the things that lit up and made noise, because it's like when my parents would go to bed and they close the door and it clicked, my brother's eyes would pop open like Squidward or in SpongeBob or Joey in Friends, where he's like with the big eyes, he pop up. He want to go out there and go see what he's got. And he's got, of course, something had to make noise, so that's what he's got to go play with first and everything else. So yeah. Riding his big wheel up and down the hallway. You could hear it ride all over the place. And those of you who were born in the 70s or were little kids in the 70s, you know what I mean by a big wheel. People from the 80s and 90s are like, what the hell are you talking about, a big wheel? What is that? John says, I am not related to Emmanuel Butler, for your information. Sure you are. It's your brother from another mother. Don't lie. Don't lie, John. I promised Bob we finished quickly, and we still went 20 minutes over. I can never stop talking on this, especially when it gets close to the holidays and things like that. Everyone, enjoy your Christmas. Have a very Merry Christmas. Remember, this time a year ago, Alvin Kamara scored 6 touchdowns against the Minnesota Vikings. Great Christmas memory. Hopefully he does that again this week, and we'll see you next time Under the Dome. Good night and Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas.